Guardians of the Galaxy Vol.3. Let's dive right into it. They gave us a trailer. We got a look at um, High Evolutionary and at Adam Warlock. First thoughts, Jarrett. What do you think of the third one?
I love this. I think I want to talk specifically about the characters too, because they're kind of throwing a lot at the wall. And I think Phase 4 has suffered in a lot of ways. And I think they need to start really bringing in the big pictures and sort of bringing it together in a way that makes sense, because right now it just feels like so many loose and disjointed stories that unless we have a glue that binds it together, um, it's going to continue to sour in people's mouths. So Adam Warlock, I talked about it. Like, I thought the casting was kind of buck wild, and then once those first pictures came out, I was like, okay, I can see it. And this sort of drives that home for me. I think he looks great in the trailer as well. Chikuri Uji looks fantastic as High Evolutionary. I hope they do a lot with him and Wanda, um, because there's a storyline that runs through there that's involved in the comics, and I think it'd be a good fit to sort of make her piece of the pie fit in with the rest of us. Because right now,
I think that's
her
why they're doing it too, Jared,
yeah,
by the way. I
her
echo
whole
that.
thing with Doctor Strange
Yeah.
is obviously like important to the sake of the multiverse, but we need to bridge that gaps between this and all these other like balls that are in play. And I think a way to bridge that would be through the High Evolutionary.
Jared, I
And
also just sorry to
yeah,
break
please.
your thought, but just an addition to that, it just feels like every choice is built around her in the Marvel Cinematic
Right.
Universe right now. It just feels like a lot of the stuff is built around her, even with WandaVision being the first Phase 4, true Phase 4 thing. I echo that. I think a lot of these villains even they just have unique ties to her
Right.
universally.
Yeah. And as we continue to like explore what the multiverse looks like through, we'll talk about Quantum Mania later. There needs to be that driving force, like the gravity that pulls this all together. And like you said, having it be Wanda and WandaVision and all this other stuff involved in it, I think is an interesting way to take this. So yeah, commercial looks great. I'm excited to see that we're bringing in Layla and sort of digging into Rocket's backstory in particular. That's one that like, don't read those comics. It's a rough read. It makes no sense. But Layla as a character is really cool, and Rocket's backstory, I think it plays a lot into this, and so I'm excited to see where they explore with that. But yeah, like for James Gunn's like swan song of the MCU, this looks way different than any James Gunn like feature we've seen so far, and I'm excited to see what
Yeah.
we do with it.
Yep. And you kind of ended it with there, but like, and Max mentioned it earlier, the tone of
Yeah,
this trailer is much different than we've seen in the previous versions of Guardians of the Galaxy. So we get some funny jokes and like a couple funny parts in the very beginning, but the rest of this trailer is very serious. Where do you think they're going with this tone, Max?
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 visceral shots of Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Peter. And the Peter shot is kind of the one that's really, really jarring when you watch this, where they are visibly scared and or depressed. The Rocket one appears to be a flashback, and Jared obviously talked about his significant other. Jared, you're stealing my talking points. Those are literally the 2 things I was going to talk about, was the High Evolution and that. So good job. I felt really nerdy and confident coming into this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have some really good detailed perspective, and Jared, of course, ruins it. Um,
actually,
yeah, you totally did. I'm really, really impressed with this trailer, but also the Adam Warlock stuff doesn't really make much sense with what I'm seeing right now with the trailer. I think that's my only kind of gripe with this stuff. Is I'm like, okay, Adam Warlock is clearly a long-term decision. However, James Gunn wanted him in this because James Gunn built the whole second movie around his race. So my question is what is his role in this? Is it bigger than we thought? Is it a future thing? Is James Gunn really trying to leave his stamp forever here? How does James Gunn going to DC affect all this? Because I think James Gunn, before this DC stuff, was going to be part of the bigger process down the line. I have no proof on that, but I have a difficult time with them getting rid of him, bringing him back for that one movie. I think he was going to do more. Bob Iger strikes me as a guy who makes those kinds of things happen. But
can
yeah, I
I
think the tone of go ahead.
can I talk about Adam Warlock for a minute? Because it feels so. out of place with like the direction that we're headed with
And
everything.
it feels late.
Yeah,
Right.
It
because
feels too late to
Yeah.
have him.
he's a
Yeah.
big part of like all the Infinity stuff, and that's like so. I mean, we're just into Phase 4, but like it already feels way in the rearview mirror that I'm like, why?
Mhm.
I'm excited for the casting. I'm excited to see what they do with him, but like, do we need Adam Warlock now? I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't think
That
we
was
need him.
exactly my thoughts,
I
honestly, because like so basically they show that very short glimpse of Adam Warlock as
Yeah,
Will Poulter as our Adam Warlock, and he looks like he's got some kind of like stone or something right there, which for comics people already know that he's a huge part of the Infinity War Infinity Gauntlet storyline, and he basically ends up holding the Soul Stone and gets trapped in there, blah blah blah, all that comic
yeah.
stuff. But like that's like a huge part of who he is as a character in the comics. So you guys are totally nailing it. Like this seems like so late. Why are we retreading this Infinity phase, basically the Infinity Saga, moving forward in the MCU? Like where are we going with Adam Warlock?
They'll explain it accordingly. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with Infinity Stones because the multiverse has made Infinity Stones obsolete, right? So like they've
Right.
made that judgment call. They've made that decision in Loki that they're not going to do it. You're not bringing on a guy of Poulter's prestige without a plan long term. You're not making him drastically change his entire lifestyle for one role for one movie. You're asking him to
Mhm.
do that for a long term. And so yes, Jared, I agree with you. It's too late. But my rebuttal, it's kind of I live in both worlds. I think he has a role to play. Where I could see this all being interesting is what if the Infinity Stones weren't obsolete in a specific world or in one world, if it was to become a battle world, then could he be the unifier of those stones? And that's obviously thinking way down the line, but him his presence is the question mark in this movie. It's the one thing that could ruin this movie in my opinion. Everything else, this movie is going to be a banger. Like this movie is so set up for success, it's not even fair. This is the most easy layup of all the movies in phase 5 and phase 4. This bad boy's going to blow it out of the water.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we've been talking about it on social media, in our Discord. Um, who is going to die in this? Because like somebody's dying, right? Like one of the Guardians is going to die. Who do you guys think it is?
I think it's got to be. I don't want them to, but I think it's got to be Rocket. And part of me thinks that they even kill off Quill in this. Like I think it's got to be
Ooh,
not just one. I think there's going to be two, maybe three deaths,
right.
and I think it's going to be like really heavy. Because again, this is James Gunn's swan song, and James Gunn is not afraid to kill off characters. If you watched anything
Yeah,
he's ever directed, and so I think
right.
I think Rocket goes just based off of the little evidence that we have, and like we're going to his origin story. Um, and then I think it's going to be Peter as well. I think Peter dies in this.
Wow.
No way
You're
they
going
kill
two. You're
Peter.
going.
No way they kill Peter. I'd push back on that. I'd be willing to make a small wager on that. I just the reason I don't think that Peter Quill goes is he that there's just no way that they're letting him walk for long-term movies, Jared. I just if they're gonna have another Guardians of the Galaxy team, him and Mantis feel like the layup of the next team. It's Drax. Batista wants out. Batista wants nothing to do with this anymore. You don't want to put yourself in a situation in a multiverse setting where he could come back as another character. And then he's not there and people are like, where's Drax? You kill him off. End of discussion. I do think Rocket dies. I think Gamora could
Mhm.
die.
I mean, she
And then
kind of
you
already
just,
did, but
but I'm saying like do it again. Like get her back in and do it again because that's Peter's legacy. Peter's legacy is he lose everything he loves.
Mhm.
I think Gamora dying once kind of loosens the stakes of it, where it's not as
Right.
Sure.
like this isn't our
Sure.
Gamora. We don't have that. I'll explain why I think Peter dies. One is like this is the end of the galaxy Guardians of the Galaxy as we know it, right? And so there has to be sort of a new team, and Guardians has always been Peter's story, right? Peter is the character, and if you look at the holiday special, even though like the focal point is like it's his holiday and he's the one getting the gift, it is like he's not in it as much as Drax and Mantis, and the little bits that he is in there is just like the MacGuffin to have this whole holiday season. So I think they're preparing us for like what might Guardians look like after Peter Quill is gone, and that like I think they kill him off.
I
That
just
would be
don't see
interesting.
it. I don't see it. I think he has to be part of that new team. I get behind what you're saying with Gamora, but I think he's got to be on that new team.
Sure.
I just
Here's
don't.
what I say. I think Rocket seems like the likeliest choice because we're going into his backstory. We already are pretty emotionally attached to Rocket, and if we're getting into his backstory, like that's going to make the most emotional impact in this movie.
Right.
That's where I'm pushing back on Drax, Max. I don't think Drax, if he dies, I don't think he makes that big of an emotional impact on us
Oh,
as viewers for
firmly
sure.
disagree. Firmly
I
disagree.
I don't feel like Drax is the guy that's gonna make everybody cry during the movie theater. Like I just don't think that's gonna be it. Rocket's
I
gonna be
think
that guy.
I think the general audience loves Drax. I really do feel that way. I think Rocket's impact is the biggest one. You're absolutely right. I think Rocket is a second act death or end of
So
the second act death,
you think Drax is gonna die like
One big
right
one at the
away
end.
and a
in the movie?
third act revenge fight on oh my goodness, I'm the High Evolutionary. That's where I see
Mhm.
the Drax death occurring, and that's where I see Gamora and or Peter working with Mantis to rebuild this team. You have to leave the team in shatters in shambles. Like you have to leave this team battered and bruised
I'll
to
agree with
rebuild it.
that. Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got to
I
do
think
that. So
that's
like people got to
right.
die or go away.
Mhm.
And the other thing is this. Here's the other part. Peter Quill and Gamora could go off and live together and be done. That's the other thing I could see.
True.
I could see
Yeah.
them falling in love and moving on, and then it's Mantis. Mantis is in charge.
Mantis is the
It's
one that
Mantis
rebuilds the
and
team.
is it
Yeah.
what's James Gunn's brother's character, the one that has
Sean Gunn. Yeah, the
what's Yondu's his
gosh.
Yondu's gift,
Krager, something like that.
whatever his name is,
Something.
Kraglin.
Kraglin.
Yeah.
There you go.
I could see him and Mantis being in charge, and then what you do is in this Secret Wars movie, you bring him and Nebula back, or him and Gamora back.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right.
kind of what I realistically see in this circumstance. I just don't see how they can kill Peter. I just do not see how they can do it.
I think you've got some good points. I would not be surprised if Drax died, but he's not going to be the focal point. I think that would be Rocket for sure. I think Rocket would be the
Rocket is
emotional
the
third
center
act.
of this movie, no question.
Yeah, I think he would be the emotional third act death. Drax would be like oh no, oh we got to rally our team together and like finish this guy off, and then Rocket dies at the end, and that's when it's like, oh crap, end of the movie. I don't know, going into bigger things with the High Evolutionary potentially leading into Secret Wars. All the stuff that we've been talking about for ages on the Infinity Bros. Maybe one of them is a Skrull. I don't know. Skrull watch. Like who's a Skrull?
Probably not.
No, I don't think it would.
Don't be ridiculous, Isaac. You need to stop doing that. That's ridiculous.
How dare I?
I will say this too. Like, if they don't kill Rocket, it's still gonna hurt. I think this backstory is gonna hurt. I think this backstory is gonna hurt a lot.
Absolutely.
And they might not kill him, but they might really hurt us by watching him suffer and be tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, somebody is dying.
Yeah, definitely.
I hope James Gunn's got the guts to kill multiple. I hope it's not just one. I really do. I
that would be wild, and I
want him to kill multiple.
Either.
I really do.
I think Drax and Rocket are good choices. Peter, I think Peter would be a bold choice. I could see it. I could see it happening, but I think he's lower on the odds list.
I think Chris Pratt is too. I think Chris Pratt wants this MCU thing too much.
Yeah,
I think he likes his role. I think he does not want to leave. They're all obviously very committed to James Gunn, but I think Chris Pratt wants to be in these Avengers movies.
Yeah, I think so too.